Hello everyone, this is Spoiler Lab. Today we're going to talk about the 2013 sci-fi film called Real Playing Game. The story takes place in the not-so-distant future. Elderly billionaire and humanitarian, Steve Battier arrives at R.P.G. there. A specialist named Mr. Chan tells Steve that the company can give its customers their youth back for a large sum of money by transferring accumulated neural information to a new brain and a new body. But there is one caveat: the bearer of a young brain will have to die. The elderly humanitarian is not at all worried. Chan then explains that the lifetime of a young body with an old brain is limited to only 10 hours. So the company invites Steve and 9 other wealthy seniors to play a game. For 10 hours, they will be transferred to new bodies and experience incredible new sensations, but only one will be able to get out of the game alive. Steve hesitates at first but accepts the deal anyways. Afterward, the billionaire informs Chan that he will soon die. Any small movement gives him unbearable pain, so he is ready to pay any amount, just to stay young for 10 hours. The billionaire goes to pick out a young body for himself. You can choose either male or female. Steve decides on the body of a handsome young man and lies down in one of the special chairs intended for participants. The game begins. Steve wakes up in his new young body lying in the grass among debris. Here he meets a girl in a white dress. They both don't remember anything and have not yet realized that their minds have been replaced by those of sick elderly people. Soon they both meet a young man in a denim suit and a girl who threatens him with a stick. A curly-haired guy joins them. Around the corner, they meet another participant, a blonde fellow. After that they meet the rest of the players, a Chinese guy, an Asian girl, a dark-skinned girl and a blonde. None of them can understand what is happening and how they got here. The young participants wander among the ruins in search of any clues. Mr. Chan appears in one of the rooms in the form of a hologram and presents himself as the game master. He proceeds to explain everything that is happening to them and shows the motionless holograms of all of the elderly people whose brains have been implanted in their bodies. Among them there is an actress, singer, African dictator, lesbian activist, Russian spy, football player, playboy, Chinese oligarch, princess of a northern European country and the famous humanitarian Steve himself. Next to each elderly person is written their biography. Mr. Chan then says that every hour one of the participants must die, or the game will choose a victim randomly. A player can kill an opponent if he manages to figure out whose brain is in the victim's body. After that, the killer must approach the hologram of the murdered person and touch it. If you choose the wrong hologram, you will die yourself. At first, the young participants do not believe what they have just heard. But when reading the biographies, each one of them begins to recognize themselves. Of course they keep this information to themselves, since no one wants to be the first victim. The young men gradually become more aggressive and suspicious of each other. The curly-haired guy offers to find a way out in the hope of escaping from the game with its cruel rules. The others follow him. It turns out that the ruins are surrounded by a high-voltage fence, therefore no one can escape. The participants discuss all the information known to them and try to decide how to proceed. While everyone finds themselves on a wavelength of passive aggressiveness, the participant with Steve's brain tries to be humane and does not believe that any of them are capable of murder. He suggests splitting up and spending the rest of the first hour apart. A girl in a white dress follows Steve. Finding herself alone with him, she admits that she doesn't want to kill anyone. Steve is also not ready to commit such a crime, and that he would rather be killed. She is touched by his statement. For the sake of each other's safety, they decide to hide any personal information about themselves even from each other. But this does not prevent them from enjoying their young bodies. The couple passionately kisses. Meanwhile, the young blonde man sharpens a stone to turn it into a weapon. After that, he enviously watches as the blonde girl seduces the curly-haired guy. They also don't miss out on the chance to take advantage of their charming young bodies. The Asian and dark-skinned girls approach the fence while discussing their former loves. They start kissing, but then the dark-skinned girl quickly pushes her friend away. She expresses her suspicion that the Asian girl is not really a woman, but an elderly man who has chosen a female body for himself. The girls are actively arguing, and the dark-skinned girl pushes the Asian girl right on the fence. That kills her instantly with an electric shock. The killer intentionally calls for help, looks at the clock and runs away. However, the whole scene was seen by Steve and his girlfriend kissing in the bushes. The dark-skinned girl makes it back to the room with holograms and unmistakably identifies her victim, a famous football player with perverse sexual taste. She believes that only this kind of person would want to occupy a woman's body. The Chinese man secretly watches all that is happening. Having made a choice, the dark-skinned girl hides. After almost all of them gather in the hall, the killer joins them pretending to have nothing to do with the crime. The young participants wonder if there was even a killer, or if the Asian girl was killed by the game. Unable to find an answer, they all disperse again. The dark-skinned girl finds a girl with a stick in the bushes and offers to team up with her. Since the girl with the stick doesn't have a clue that the first murder was committed by her, she decides to trust her. Meanwhile, the brutalized blonde guy grabs a sharpened stone and abruptly pounces on the blonde. The guy in the denim jacket and the curly-haired guy both notice this. They try to discourage the blonde from killing, and the blonde girl does not admit whose brain was implanted in her body. Then the blonde forcibly leads her into the room of holograms and begins his ruthless interrogation. He proceeds to break the girl's hand and cut her arm. Everyone rushes back into the room, but all hope is already lost. The blonde girl admits to him that she is an actress, and he cuts her throat. The enraged killer chooses a hologram of the actress, but is mistaken. His victim was a singer. Then the game incinerates the blonde, and his hologram of the African dictator disappears. Steve and his girlfriend run away from the hologram room and become even closer. They begin to trust each other more and decide to stay away from everyone else. With this in mind, they retire into the bushes and indulge in gentle lovemaking. After having sex, Steve falls asleep. Taking advantage of the opportunity, his girlfriend tries to find out who he really is. She hopes that he will say something compromising in his sleep, and she will be able to kill him. After falling asleep in the game, Steve briefly wakes up in the real world. Mr. Chan comes up to him and explains that there was a malfunction, but soon Steve will wake up again in his young body. He promises Steve that by winning the game, he will remain young forever. While Steve's young body is sleeping, the girl in a white dress grabs a stick and prepares to kill him. But he wakes up abruptly and starts telling her about his dream. He explains to his girlfriend that everything is real. By killing each other, they are taking the lives of young people who actually own these bodies. But the girl doesn't listen to anything he says, so she attacks Steve and hits him with a stick. Not realizing his folly, he pierces the eye of his former lover with a stick. The girl staggers from the pain and falls into a deep pool that happened to be nearby. Steve realizes during the fight that the girl in white was an actress. The dark-skinned girl manages to calm the vigilance of the girl with a stick and incline her towards intimacy. The ladies merge in a kiss, but the dark-skinned woman suddenly begins to strangle the victim. She is instantly wounded in the arm with the stick by the other girl and is pushed away. After the death of his girlfriend, Steve comes to the room with holograms and chooses the actress. His choice is correct. While leaving the building, he runs into the dark-skinned girl and threatens to kill her next, because he saw what she did to the Asian girl. She runs frightened to the hologram room. Here she is met by the Chinese man. He also accuses her of murdering the Asian girl and says that he saw through her lies. Confidently thinking that she must be an actress, he pushes her to her death. He is extremely surprised that she indeed was not an actress. So he then chooses at random and decides correctly on a hologram of the famous lesbian activist. The curly-haired and denim jacket guys decide to carefully study the biographies of the remaining elderly people and also kill. After rereading some of the information, they decide that the young man with Steve's brain is the humanitarian, and that they are going to kill him. The girl with a stick tries to talk to Steve after she had just almost been strangled. She says that for her to survive she does not want to become a murderer. But Steve decides to not trust any of his rivals anymore. The participants notice a terrified Chinese man trying to climb a tree to get over the fence. Steve assumes that this is impossible, and throws a stone over the fence to check. It immediately rebounds due to the high voltage. The Chinese man then returns to the ground and wonders why Steve decided to save him from death. At this moment, the curly-haired and denim jacket guys approach the fence. After seeing Steve rescue the Chinese man, no one had any more doubts that he was the humanitarian. Therefore, killing him is a safe bet. But then Steve reminds them that nobody has found out yet if the game will kill anyone if everyone decides to not kill anymore. He offers to lay down his weapons for an hour and see what happens. Everyone else agrees and calmly go to the pool. Here Steve tells everyone about waking up in the real world. This wasn't just a game, this was actual murder. He also explains that he did not want to kill the actress, but had to defend himself. During this time, among the ruins, the dark-skinned girl comes to her senses for a minute. Her hologram appears in the room again. However, the hour expires, and the game kills her. Since the other players were sitting by the pool, nobody noticed what had happened. The guys still don't have a grip of the principles of the game, but they are going berserk again and want to kill. The Chinese man threatens the last surviving girl, and she runs away in horror to hide in the ruins. There, in one of the rooms, she finds a bonus, like in a video game. The Chinese man is looking for her everywhere and has no doubt that she is the princess of a northern European country. She readily points the newly found gun at him. However, she does not know who he really is, so she cannot kill him yet. She decides to shoot him in the leg and interrogate him, but it doesn't cost him anything to lie, because she will die instantly if she touches the wrong hologram. Realizing this, she decides to kill Steve first. The Chinese man climbs onto the roof of the building and calls out to the girl who has already managed to make it outside. In desperation, he shouts that nobody will never know who he is, and jumps. Perplexed, the girl heads to the hologram room, but at the entrance she is abruptly knocked down by the guy in a denim jacket. He takes the gun from her and points it at her. At this time, The hologram of the old Chinese oligarch disappears. It turns out that the young Chinese was actually Chinese. The guy in a denim jacket doesn't really want to kill her, he only offers to have sex. She immediately realizes that he must be the playboy, but refuses to have sex with him. She then tells him that she took all the bullets out of the pistol, and hits him with a rebar in the stomach. At this moment, Steve and the curly-haired guy run into the room. Steve grabs the gun, but immediately realizes that there are no bullets in it. The curly-haired guy decides to make a deal with the girl. She will give him the bullets, and they will both kill Steve and the guy in the denim jacket. That they will just have sex in the remaining hours, and in the end play Russian roulette. But the girl does not give up the bullets, and Steve runs away. The playboy begs her to stay with him until the end so that he can finally enjoy her beauty. He sings a romantic song and tries to joke with the last of his strength. Meanwhile, Steve throws the gun into the pool, silently picks up a broken bottle and does not let the curly-haired guy near him. Steve has good judgment of people and has already realized that he is the Russian spy. Steve tries to confuse him and not give himself away completely. Steve suggests he go back and see if the others are still alive. They both return to the hologram room and inform their rivals that the gun is no more. Steve cannot stand by while the playboy was being tormented and offers him help. However, he insists that everything is fine, and dies with a smile. The girl chooses the playboy hologram and leaves the room. The curly-haired guy tells Steve that he will come back for him as soon as he is done with the girl. But as soon as he tries to head towards the exit, Steve takes a shard of the bottle out of his pocket and cuts his throat. He really did turn out to be a Russian spy. That leaves just him and the princess now. Steve slowly approaches her and tells her that since both of them are good people, they will not kill one another. He offers to spend the rest of their time together indulging in life's pleasures. He kisses her and gently takes the rebar from her hand. The princess relaxes in his arms, and at that moment he cuts her throat with the same bottle fragment. She dies, and Steve comes back to reality. He asks Mr. Chan what amount of money he would want in order to keep him young forever. The game master pretends to think about it, but immediately calls a huge amount for the service. Steve instantly transfers the money. After that, he sees himself in his old clothes and happily gets into his car. Steve, as if under hypnosis, is completely sure that he is now young and attractive. But in fact, he remains a decaying old man. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and leave your movie recommendations in the comments, and we will try to give you the highest quality content as often as possible. Till next time.